there's a specific moment that almost nobody talks about. It isn't the day they get the job. It isn't the day they buy the car. It isn't the day they move into the apartment with the perfect view. And it isn't even the day they stop checking their bank balance before they hit confirm order. It's much quieter than that. It's the moment they open their banking app, look at the number, and don't feel anything. No anxiety. No quick mental math about whether rent clears first. No panic. Just calm. For a lot of people, that moment arrives somewhere around the six-figure mark. And here's the strange part. Almost nobody can explain why. They just know that before that number, life felt like it was happening to them. After it, life started feeling like something they were finally controlling. This isn't a video about getting rich overnight. It's about understanding why one number changes the way you think, the way you make decisions, and eventually the way you live. Because $100,000 isn't the finish line, it's the starting line. And here's what almost nobody realizes. The hardest part of becoming wealthy isn't making money. It's surviving the years before your money starts working for you. And that's where almost everyone quits. Picture this. You're 24 years old. You finally land a decent job. Not a dream job, just a decent one. You're trying to do everything right. You skip unnecessary purchases. You invest every month. You tell yourself to think long-term. Then one evening, you open your investment account. This month, your portfolio made $38. $38, you actually made more than that working a single shift years ago. And somehow, this is supposed to become financial freedom. You close the app. You don't complain. You don't tell your friends. But a tiny thought quietly appears in the back of your mind. Maybe investing just isn't for me. That single sentence has probably destroyed more wealth than any stock market crash ever has. Not because it's emotional, because it's completely, mathematically, wrong. There really is an invisible wall standing between you and meaningful wealth. Almost everyone runs into it. Almost everyone gets frustrated by it. And most people walk away just before they were about to break through. What separates wealthy people from everyone else isn't that they never hit the wall. It's that they kept walking after they hit it. By now, you've probably heard someone explain compound interest using a snowball. It's one of the oldest examples in finance. Honestly, it's still one of the best. But there's one part of the story almost nobody tells you. Imagine trying to roll a snowball that's no bigger than a golf ball. It doesn't build momentum, bounces off, rots a little, it barely changes. So every few seconds, you have to bend down, pick it up, and push it all over again. That's exactly what investing feels like at the beginning. If you've got $4,000 invested, compound interest isn't doing anything exciting yet. There's simply not enough snow on the ball. Let's say you invest $10,000 today and earn an average return of 7% a year. Historically, that's been close to what a broad stock market index has delivered over long periods. 5 years later, you've got roughly $14,000. $4,000 of growth after 5 years. It's real progress. But emotionally, it doesn't feel life-changing. For some people, that's less than the cost of renovating a bathroom. And this is exactly where people quietly give up. Not dramatically. Nobody announces, "I'm done investing." They simply stop adding money. They convince themselves it isn't working. The extra $200 each month slowly starts going somewhere else. A nicer phone, more takeout, a new car. Because if investing only makes $38, what's the point? But here's what they never see. Something underneath the surface has already started changing. They just can't feel it yet. And once it reaches a certain size, everything flips. Now let's fast forward a few years. Same person, same investment strategy, same average return. But this time, instead of $10,000, they've built $100,000. Now watch what happens. Getting from zero to that first $100,000 usually takes the longest. Years of consistency, years of discipline, years where it feels like almost nothing is happening. It's the part nobody puts in the highlight reel. But something changes once you finally reach six figures. The next 100,000 usually arrives much faster. Not because you suddenly became smarter, not because you discovered some secret investment. The return is exactly the same, 7%. The only difference is that your money has finally become large enough to start doing meaningful work without you. And it keeps accelerating. 200,000 becomes 300,000 faster. 300,000 becomes 400,000 even faster. Eventually, there comes a month where your investments earn more money than you personally managed to save. Read that again. Your money worked harder than you did. That's the moment everything quietly changes. Because the goal was never getting rich. The goal was reaching the point where your money finally joins your team. So the real question isn't, how do I become wealthy? It's this. How do you survive the years before the math finally starts working in your favor? Because that's the part where almost everybody quits. And the next mistake people make costs them years of progress without them ever realizing. Here's the part most people never see. The first force working against you has nothing to do with investing. It has everything to do with earning power. And if you're early in your career, you're starting the game with one hand tied behind your back. Not because you aren't talented, not because you don't work hard, simply because you haven't had enough time. Think about every skill that actually increases someone's income. negotiation, experience, reputation, confidence, a strong professional network. None of those appear overnight. They all compound, exactly the same way money does. The uncomfortable truth is that the youngest version of you is usually the least valuable version of you in the job market, not because you're less capable, because employers haven't seen enough proof yet. And on top of that, life has become more expensive, housing costs have exploded, groceries cost more than they'd just a few years ago, insurance or transportation, utilities. Almost everything has become heavier on your paycheck. Meanwhile, income hasn't always kept up at the same pace, which means many people aren't just climbing the same mountain their parents climbed. They're climbing a steeper one. And that's exactly why reaching your first 100,000 feels so painfully slow. But here's where the story changes. You also have something that no generation before you had. For the first time in history, someone can build an entire second income stream using nothing more than a laptop, an internet connection, and one valuable skill. Think about that. A designer in a small town can work with clients across the world. A programmer can build software from their bedroom. A writer can sell knowledge online. A video editor can earn more from freelance work than from a traditional office job. And now, AI tools have made that opportunity even bigger. Tasks that once took 8 hours can sometimes be finished in 2: research, writing, design, automation. The people who learn to use these tools aren't replacing hard work, they're multiplying it. That's why some people seem to move forward much faster than everyone else. It's rarely because they're lucky, it's because they figured out how to increase the value of every hour they work. The same world that's making life more expensive is also creating opportunities that barely existed 10 years ago. The question isn't whether those opportunities exist. The question is whether you'll use them. Now let's talk about the second force, because this is the one that quietly steals years from people's lives. Imagine two friends, same age, same salary, same starting point. Both decide they want financial freedom. The first person starts investing immediately, not huge amounts, just enough to stay consistent. The second person waits. I'll start after my next promotion. I'll start when I make more money. I'll start when the market feels safer. It sounds responsible. It even sounds logical until 5 years pass. One afternoon, they both compare their accounts. That's when the second person realizes something painful. They didn't just lose the money they never invested. They lost 5 years. 5 years of compound growth. 5 years that can never be bought back. Because money can be replaced. Time can't. That's why waiting is so expensive. Not because tomorrow is guaranteed to be worse. Because tomorrow removes something you'll never recover. Time. And here's the part that surprises most people. A 20-year-old investing a relatively small amount every month can still finish ahead of someone who starts much later with much larger contribution. Not because they're smarter, not because they picked better investments, simply because they gave their money one thing the other person couldn't: more time. That's why the biggest mistake in personal finance usually isn't choosing the wrong investment. It's waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment has a habit of never arriving. Now let's leave spreadsheets behind for a minute, because something much bigger changes after the first 100,000. It's the person. Imagine getting an unexpected email from your landlord. The rent is going up. Again. A year ago, that message would have ruined your entire week. You would have opened your banking app 10 different times, started calculating expenses, wondering what you'd have to cut, maybe even losing sleep over it. Now imagine the same situation after you've built a financial cushion. You read the email, you take a deep breath, you open your spreadsheet, you check the numbers, and then you go back to making dinner. Nothing dramatic happened. The problem didn't disappear. But the panic, that's the difference. A few months later, you're sitting across from a recruiter. An offer slides across the table. Last year, you would have accepted immediately. Not because it was a great offer, because you were afraid there wouldn't be another one. Today, you read the number. You pause. You ask for more. Not because you've become greedy, because you've stopped negotiating from fear. That quiet pause might be the most valuable thing $100,000 ever gives someone. Some psychologists describe this as building a financial floor. The point where your basic sense of security becomes strong enough that every decision no longer feels like survival. And once survival stops controlling your decision, your entire life begins to change. You take opportunities you would have ignored before. You negotiate differently. You think differently. You plan differently. You sleep differently. Because the day money becomes quieter is the day life becomes louder. And that's what this entire video has really been about. Not becoming rich. Becoming free enough that fear no longer gets the final vote. So, how do you actually get there? Not someday. Not when life finally becomes perfect. Not after the next promotion. How do you realistically cross that invisible wall? It starts with something surprisingly simple. Before you try to earn more, make sure you're not quietly losing what you already earn. Most people think they have an income problem. Often, they have a leaking bucket. Open your bank statement from the last 2 months. Go through every transaction, one by one. Streaming subscriptions you forgot about. Apps you haven't opened in months. Impulse purchases you barely remember making. Most people discover somewhere between $1 and $300 every month that's quietly disappearing. Money they already earned, but never really used. The goal isn't becoming cheap. It's making sure every dollar has a purpose, because every dollar you save today becomes another employee working for you tomorrow. The second step is building another source of income. One paycheck is one point of failure. If that paycheck disappears, everything else suddenly feels fragile. The good news is, we don't live in the same economy our parents did. Today, one useful skill can create opportunities almost anywhere. Maybe it's editing videos, graphic design, programming, marketing, creating content, consulting. You don't need 10 different income streams. You don't need to become an influencer. You only need one skill that solves a real problem for someone else. And then, you give yourself permission to earn from it, even if it starts small. Because every extra dollar has one job, to help you reach that first 100,000 faster. The third step is where almost everyone hesitates. Invest before it feels important. Most people tell themselves they'll start investing once they have real money. But that's backwards. You don't invest because you already have wealth. You invest because you're building it. Remember those two people we talked about earlier? One started immediately. The other waited. The difference wasn't intelligence. The difference wasn't luck. The difference was time. Time quietly rewards people who begin before they feel ready. Automate your investments if you can. Take emotion out of the equation. Because the version of you standing in a grocery store, trying to justify one more unnecessary purchase, shouldn't be deciding your financial future. You deserves better than that. The fourth step is keeping more of what you earn. This isn't about finding secret loopholes. It's about understanding the rules. Tax-efficient investing, retirement accounts, legitimate business deductions if you have side income. These aren't tricks, they're tools. And the people who understand those tools don't necessarily earn more money. They simply lose less of it. We spend years learning how to make money. Very few people spend time learning how to keep it. That knowledge quietly compounds too. The final step might be the least exciting, but it could also be the most powerful. Destroy high-interest debt, because debt compounds too, just in the opposite direction. Imagine trying to push your snowball uphill while someone behind you keeps breaking pieces off every few seconds. That's what high-interest debt does. Every dollar paying 20% interest is working against you 24 hours a day. Before chasing extraordinary investment returns, remove the things quietly pulling you backwards. Sometimes the fastest way forward is simply removing what's slowing you down. None of these 5 steps are glamorous. Nobody makes a movie about canceling subscription. Nobody celebrates paying off a credit card. Nobody goes viral because they consistently invested every month for 8 years. But that's exactly how wealth is built. Quietly, patiently, one decision at a time. Here's the part nobody ever puts in the thumbnail. The journey to $100,000 doesn't feel exciting while you're living it. It feels ordinary. It's packing lunch instead of ordering takeout. It's asking for the raise you've been afraid to request. It's choosing the boring index fund while everyone else is chasing the latest investment trend. It's saying, not yet, to things you genuinely wanted because you were saying yes to something much bigger. Nobody films those moments. Nobody posts them online. But those invisible decisions are the real story behind almost every successful investor you'll ever meet. Then one day, on a completely ordinary Tuesday, something unexpected happened. You open your investment account, you glance at the numbers, and you realize, and your investments earned more this month than you personally contributed. Nobody sends you a congratulation message. Your phone doesn't light up. The world keeps moving exactly as it always has. But inside, something changes forever. For the first time, your money isn't just sitting there. It's working, without being asked, without needing your attention, without needing permission. And in that moment, you realize something. You were never just building an investment account. You were building peace of mind. You were buying choices. You were buying times. You were buying the freedom to make decisions without fear sitting in the room beside you. That's what the first 100,000 really gives you. Not luxury, not status, not a different life overnight. It gives you options. And over time, those options quietly become freedom. So if only one idea stays with you after this video, let it be this. The wall is real. Every investor feels it. Every saver struggles through it. Every wealthy person remembers it. But the wall isn't there to stop you. It's there to test whether you'll keep going long enough for the math to finally start working in your favor. You don't need to start with thousands of dollars. You don't need the perfect salary. You don't need perfect timing. You simply need to start earlier than feels comfortable, smaller than feels impressive, and consistently enough that one day, almost without noticing, your money starts carrying part of the weight. Because the goal was never becoming rich. The goal was becoming the kind of person who no longer has to make every decision from fear. One day, you'll open your banking app, look at the number, and feel absolutely nothing. No panic, no stress, just quiet confidence. And when that day comes, you'll realize the number didn't change your life. The habits did.